Hey guys, today we're modding an Xbox 360 Corona with a 16 megabyte NAND module, which we can see is this Hynix guy right here. And what we're going to be doing is soldering one of these pin headers right here. We've got our NAND headers here and two more over here for our E and F points. Then we're going to hit the positive 3 volt and the ground. And we're going to dump the NAND, and then we have established also that we need a Postfix adapter on the CPU. Over here, as you can see, right here on this section, we are actually missing our trace wires, and we can also tell that because on these two resistor points right here, let me try and get some focus real quick for you. As we can see, the R2C7 and R2C8 resistors are actually missing, and what we need to do is bridge them, and that is also a clear indicator that you do need a postfix adapter. So let's try and get this guy fixed in on what we're doing. And I say let's begin, because there is nothing better than just jumping head first into it. God damn it. There we go. Perfect. Almost. I will be editing this out of my video, most likely. But anyways, first thing we're going to do is clear up these solder joints real quick with our fiberglass scratch brush, and this is just going to make soldering onto them far easier. As you can see, they are getting much shinier. For this soldering, I have done 2 Jaspers so far of my own. This will be a Corona that belongs to a friend Brad, and I will be using WeekendModder's tutorial because he just made some great videos that I really wish that he kept accessible to, or had available at the time when I was trying to do the Jaspers, because it was really a pain and I felt like there wasn't good resources available, but you know, we're good to go. So once we do that, we're going to go and apply some flux paste. However this guy works. Of course it's made in China, so that'll probably make my life a little bit more difficult, but let's see. Aha, okay. That is an awful lot of flux, so I'll probably have to get some of that off of there. Okay, and let's go ahead also and hit our, and excuse me for a second while I move the camera out of the way so I can slightly see what I'm working on. And for this we will zoom out a little, and you need to go that way. Alright. Wow guys, these points are so small that I might need to adjust the camera more to try and get into it. Okay, and all of this so I can get my magnifier right down in there. Alright guys, just for some references as well, these are really truly small soldering points, and to provide you a point of reference I'm going to put a dime in here. And as you can see, we're soldering to some very small points, especially for the two resistors that we need to bridge. Now unfortunately in my old age my hands are starting to get a little bit unsteady, so hopefully this goes well. Okay. Let's see now. I'm sorry everyone for all the shakiness. This is my first time trying to do this, and I'm feeling like the setup isn't the best. So I might need to reevaluate to figure out a better way to do this. Alright, here we go. What I'm going to do first is start by bridging these two. Namely because this is going to be perhaps the hardest ones to get to. Okay, that's obviously not going to work as well as I was hoping. Okay, a little more solder. And with the aid of the wire, we'll be able to pull this across. And there we go. I believe that looks like we have those bridged. Well, that looks mighty well. Hopefully that'll work. Okay, so now what we want to do is we have our JProgrammer, and we have this connector for it, which we will be soldering to the NAND headers. So what it looks like we have is starting here at the top left, which is not the top left for you guys, but this point right here is going to be our brown, black, orange, red, and yellow, and these are going to be for the NAND header itself. And that looks like we're going to have a positive, negative, and then our E and F points, which if you follow these traces down, they actually come right off of the bridge that we just created. Alright, so
So we need to hook up the NAND wire so that we can read the current NAND off of it. So we're going to continue on with that process. So we've got our spots pre-tinned. I've got my my NAND wires here, and I like to start with
we're going to go ahead and re-tin all these spots real quick. What we're going to do is just get a little bit more
and then brown, which would be easier if I wasn't colorblind. Little piece of lint on there. Brown, and then red.
okay.
And then orange. Hail from Belgium. Awesome, dude. That's really cool. Belgium? Sonic Wolf's Dutch. Oh, I think you've been in a stream before. I recognize your name. Alright, yellow. And then remember we said the blue and the greens were the ones far off to the right. It's green on the bottom.
Alright, and as WeekendModder tells us, because this is a ground point, it will actually take a little bit longer to actually get this guy in there.
So we'll go blue.
And I lied again, we're also going to have two more points, what looks like here.
And then green.
Here.
Alright. So now that we've got our NAND wire soldered in, this should, Wales, South Australia. I guess I should have anticipated at this time of day that I would get some international watchers, so that's awesome. What's up, Modchip? How's it going, man? Fusion said a silly question. What was his question? I didn't see it. Why does it need a NAND? Yeah, okay. You're right, that is a silly question. It always has a NAND. It's an Xbox. Alright, so let's see, adjust the cam here while we turn this up.
Alright, and if you guys bear with me now, what I'm going to do is resort to my video, which is, once again, the WeekendModder, to see exactly how I'm going to be soldering these in for our JRunner chip. Okay. And what we'll do is pull up my picture as well. And we can see starting at the top, we're going to go brown. Alright, we'll go orange. yellow. I would like to also mention I'm not right-handed, so this is even more difficult from this angle. Alright. Then we've got the black. And the red. Okay. I said red. Okay. And then that leaves us with blue and green right now. Which blue is going to come 4 pins over. Which will be right here. And green right beneath them. Alright.
Should Wales 40 whatever 43000. What up, Papa Oscar? Cosmos asks, how much is this in service? Little imp, totally appropriate. 40 whatever. You've done a good job. Installed that. So we can close our little reference image because we installed that.
So now what we're going to do
is you can click this little question mark and
go back to JRunner.
Flash config. And if you've done a good job installing and soldering, you get a valid flash config, which 43000 is a valid flash config for
Alright, bear with me for a second.
Consoles and most of your programmer, and then it leaves you with a little pin to populate the pin headers on Raspberry Pis. I'll pop over to what removes the up, which I don't even install. Grab my Nandex, and actually I think we'll just go with camera left. So what I'm hooking up now is just standby power, right? So
alright, so what we're going to do now is I'm going to zoom out a little bit.
Grab my Nandex.
What we're going to do is give ourselves a little bit of power.
And then plug that into the header.
This is not going to be full power. We're just doing a standby power right now. We don't want to turn this guy on.
We can close our little reference image because we installed that. First thing you do is you can click this little question mark and it will query your flash config. And if you've done a good job installing and soldering, you get a valid flash config, which 43000 pop back into our little reference image because we installed that. First thing you do is you can click this little question mark.
Okay, and let's get this thing plugged in now. This is our JRunner programmer that we will be using to read, dump, and rewrite the NAND afterwards. So let's get him plugged in here. And let me actually unplug this guy first. And come back in here and slide him in. And then we're going to plug him back in. And if what WeekendModder is telling me, if my solder points are good and my bridges are intact, which it certainly looks like they are, I should be able to come into JRunner, which I might actually need to reload it real quick. Alright, now according to this, we can't detect the device. And I don't know if that is the JRunner or the Modchip itself. Hopefully just the JRunner, so I'm going to need to run through here and make sure that I have drivers installed. So bear with me real quick. I'm going to cancel this stream and I will restart it again shortly. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we're back. We have successfully read our NAND. We've dumped it 4 times. So what we're going to do now, just to get this Modchip out of the way, or not the Modchip, the programmer, we're actually going to just go and create and write the ECC now, which I know a lot of places leave for the final step, but apparently it doesn't hurt anything to do it sooner, so what we're going to do is create ECC, and then we're going to write the ECC back, which writes Zell to the first 50 or so bytes of the NAND. What this is going to do is actually allow Zell to boot up. Zell is going to be our loader. Yeah. Alright, and we have successfully written our Zell bootloader to the NAND. Alright, so next step is to actually proceed with getting the ACE chip installed. First, we're going to disconnect the power. Alright, so now that we have this guy off of here, now we're going to come back over here, and you remember I first had told you that we will be soldering to a positive and ground, which we have right here. We will be using the ACE version 3 glitch chip. Alright, and what we're going to do first is just go ahead and tin some of the points on this guy. Alright, we've gone and trimmed down the points on our leads right now because we don't want extra wire hanging off on these points we're going to solder, because it could be something that can, reasonably short out if something brushes up against it. We'll try and, eliminate any of those problem spots. So we've got 4 short wires and 2 long wires that came with the ACE V3. Starting with the power and ground, we're going to go and solder these guys on. And let me try and get this in here for you so you can see it a little better. And make this bigger for you. Alright, so starting with the power. Alright. And our power will come down to the 5-volt power on the ACE chip. I'm starting to feel like I might need a little bit more heat on this soldering iron. Okay. So that is our positive. We're going to come in and do the ground next. He's being a little bit stubborn for me today. Turn up my soldering iron a little bit real quick. And what we're going to do is just get a little bit more solder onto that joint for us, and now we'll come back down and hit this guy. Alright, That's our ground. We're just going to bring him right back down to the ground on the chip. Come on, buddy. There we go. Alright.
And install these longer wires. We've got some trollers since the Xenon have required less power every generation.
Alright, now we're going to be bringing in E and F, which E is our top spot right up here. Alright. Ow. Don't burn your fingers. Soldering irons are hot and flesh does not smell good. Just in case anyone was wondering. Okay. There's E. And now we've got F. Alright, I might need a little bit more solder on there. There we go. Alright, so we've got E and F soldered on. Now we've skipped C and D. So C is actually going to go to, as I understand it, the back side of the board. And D is going to be what goes to our postfix adapter, I believe.
And then for a little
And
while.
I'm sorry about that. I lied.
Right, so
C
to
will
take this
actually
back
be
out of
going
the
to the
case.
postfix adapter, while D will go to the underside. Alright, now because of this, what we're going to do is we're going to solder these two wires on ahead of time, because we're going to need to route them. And we'll go with mods are so shaky. Alright. And my D wire is right here. Alright. So now we're soldered onto the Modchip.
WeekendModder, I wanted to sell my RGH Jasper. Is it somewhat illegal when doing it? No, there's absolutely nothing illegal about selling a modded console. However, let me caution you that if you post your modded console
Now
as
what we're
preloaded
going to do
with XXX
is D will actually be sliding through this hole right here to the underside of the board.
X games, whatever, and preloaded with X. WeekendModder, I wanted to sell my RGH Jasper. Is it somewhat illegal? Xbox game. Maybe we can work out a little bit of a discount on shipping. Two of them. I mean, so much about. I mean, I guess if you're operating as well, there, and two, to sell XYZ mod menu and whatever that.
Alright, so now what we're going to do, guys, sorry I had to take a quick break, but the wire that we've now routed around through this hole, which is our D wire, you'll see we'll flip this over, and so we're coming out over here, and our wire is going to get routed, and you see this big hole for the heatsink right here. So what we're actually going to be doing is, let me spin this board around real quick for me. And that's not which orientation I want. Alright, so you'll see that we have this R4P3. Wow, sorry, I'm even looking at the wrong hole. We're looking at this guy right here. Okay, and right off the top of him, we have this R4P3. You can see this is a really tiny joint, or point to solder to. And if we count up, we've got 3 more pads, and what we're looking for is this third one above the R4P3. And what we're going to want to do is hope that we can get this wire soldered onto, I did that wrong, so let's cut some of this metal off real quick, because we do not want much on this wire, because you can see it is a very congested area, and any short is a bad short. So we're going to trim that guy down really nice and small. And alright, so what we're going to want to do now is go and try and hit this guy real quick with our fiberglass pad, just to clean this guy up a little bit. Alright, we're going to go over him with a Q-tip just to make sure that this guy is clean. Alright, we're going to hit him with a little bit of flux paste. Alright, and if all goes well, we can bring this guy down in here, and hopefully, actually bear with me for a second, we're going to melt that paste and try and get some solder tinned onto this. Alright, there we go. Got a little bit of solder to stick to it finally. And bring this guy in here. And solder him right on. Alright, so now, because this is obviously a very small point and we have soldered a very small wire to it, we're going to have some concerns with this thing breaking off. So what I'm going to do is hot glue the wire to the motherboard a little bit back from the joint just so we can take some of the stress off of it. I just need you to bear with me for a second while I get my hot glue gun set up. Alright, so the hot glue gun is ready. So we'll just take him right here, a little bit back from the solder point, and just apply a little gook of glue. And what this will do is give us a little bit of an anchor point, so if someone goes and tugs on that wire, nothing's going to happen.
What we're looking for is right off the top of the motherboard, near the XC GPU here, there are these diagonal row of vias.
Alright, so now we're going to flip back over the motherboard real quick. We've already got the heatsink removed from this.
Yes, I have SD tool in stock.
And as you see, right
Brady,
here,
thanks, you're welcome.
This is our CPU,
there we go, there's some focus.
and
so
right here,
you can see this little row of vias that's all diagonal like that.
You can see
that's
these diagonal traces here, and what we're missing is the rest of them running down through this point that are actually connected to this diagonal header right here. And this is normally our post point for the CPU. Because that's missing, we need to use what's called a postfix adapter.
All of these little vias, and the fact that we do see those lines here tells me that those traces have not been removed, and therefore this console will not require a postfix adapter. If, unlike this, games themselves of somewhere between like so anyway, after that rant, go ahead and get this thing installed. What do you say? So I'm going to put that down here, and we'll slide this bit up from the bottom. And that's not quite flush, but everybody can see the dialog here. How long would it take for you to receive your RGH from you when you send it in? So typically most people send in via a method. Okay, so just to point out, see how we're getting a reading of somewhere between like 35 and 50? That's exactly what we want to see. That tells us that we have made good contact with the post point and this board is properly installed. Alright, so just chill and watch the screen leave. Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks, man. Sorry, so somebody was asking a question. Notice a lot of RGH sellers are so damn catty, like a bunch of bitches. Yes, I totally agree. You never scored off Craigslist for 20 bucks. You picked up a console for 20 bucks? That's a pretty good price. Crazy Kid says his friend got a console for me. Awesome. Hey, so I think what was I saying? Crap, what was the question? I thought there was a question. I don't know, whatever. So Postfix adapter is installed. Now what we have are the tiny little anchors here. So these are capacitors that are ditched from you when you send it in. So typically most people send in via a method. Okay, so just to point out, see how we're getting a reading of somewhere between like 35 and 50?
Alright, now as I understand this, we should be getting a value on our testers of somewhere in the ballpark of 35 to 50 thousand ohms. Alright. Now I'm curious because right now I'm actually getting about 83. So we'll go ahead and give it a try. I've tried readjusting this and seeing if I get different results, and I don't. So we're going to go with this guy and see what this is going to do for us.
That's exactly what we want to see. That tells us that we have made good contact with the post point and this board is properly installed. Alright, so just chill and watch the screen leave. Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks, man. Sorry, so somebody was asking a question. Notice a lot of RGH sellers are so damn catty, like a bunch of bitches. Yes, I totally agree. Install those. I don't always have great success with this. So in lieu of that, if we don't get a good anchor, what we can do is use a little bit of hot glue as a substitute, kind of around the outside. And it seems like it's going that way too. We will carefully try.
So we're going to go with this right now. What we need to do is solder on 2 anchor points here. I'm not sure how well you'll be able to see them, but what we're looking at is where the chip just got inserted. Where are my tweezers at? Where are my tweezers at? I don't know. Oh, they're sitting right in my lap. So anyways, as you see, we're going to need to actually solder our 2 anchor points right onto this resistor right here. And then after we get that out of the way, we're going to be able to solder our C point right onto the postfix adapter after putting the heatsink back on. So let's go ahead and hit this guy now. Oh, we've seen solder points like this with the DVD glitch hacks and everything, and the switch mods as well. It's kind of convenient. I like having them like this. Alright, so we'll take our solder iron. Ooh. Got them nice and clean. And what we'll do is bring our magnifying glass down a little bit. And sorry guys, I need to move this a little bit closer to me, and I'll probably need to spin it as well. And I'll just come in. Alright, there's one side. And it looks like that might be alright. It looks like we've got that guy on pretty well. And he is anchored to our board. And now we can proceed to reapply the heatsink. Now I've already taken the thermal paste off of the CPU itself, but we still have the heatsink to clean up here. So I'm just going to take a little bit of alcohol and scrub dub 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 dub.
Any form of proof. Show a payment and I will show the corresponding tracking, or tell you how you got scammed by somebody pretending to be me, if that's the case. Alright. So reinstalling the heatsink here. So post some proof and I will fully address any and all got scammed by installing the heatsink here, or tell you how you got scammed by somebody pretending to be me, if that's the case. Alright.
Alright, bear with me while I make sure I get my orientation and everything down real quick on this. So what we're going to do is reapply a little bit of Arctic Silver thermal paste. Now, you know, using a Q-tip is probably not the smartest way to go about doing this. But we'll say it will suffice for now. Okay, so we got a nice thin layer, and now we can go ahead and put our heatsink right back on. And we'll go like that real quick. And our fat side will be hanging off over here. Actually, before I even go ahead and do that, I would also like to just put a dab of hot glue right on the joint. Make sure it doesn't get onto the CPU die itself. Alright, and there we go. Alright, so now that we've got that out of the way, once again, the heatsink can go back on. And what we do is find our X clamp, which is also right here.
Alright. So, reinstalling the heatsink here.
Flip the board over.
Best head, thank you, man. I appreciate that you would.
We want to keep this nice and flush right now.
Totally not necessary. Oh, is that what it is? He's the same dude. I'll just block him. That's easy enough. Block. Message deleted. I think I blocked him fully. Modchip. If he appears again, just let me know. All right. So now we have. Just let me know. Alright. So now we have G installed, our Postfix installed. We got everything ready to go here, with the exception of installing our C point, which goes over here to the Postfix adapter. I have the best success using it at the shortest length, the pad that's labeled 5 here. Alright. What size of solder? I use, what do I use here? 60-40 lead tin, and it is, what's the diameter? 44? 44 diameters. This is Kester 60-40 tin lead, 44. That's what I would use. How long would it take to receive your Xbox after you send it in? I think you mean to say WeekendModder, but that's the question somebody had asked. So most consoles get modded within a day or two of showing up and then get shipped back out via priority mail. This particular console is actually just arrived today. Mr. Jonathan O. of Texas.
Alright, so we've now got the heatsink back on. We have our Modchip almost completely adapter. Now, as I understood it, it looks like the one labeled 5
what size of solder? I use
on our Postfix adapter,
tin, and it is, what's the diameter?
which you can
44?
see is right
44
over
diameters. This is Kester
here.
60-40 tin lead, 44.
Is going to be the point that we're going to want to solder to.
How long would it take to receive your
Because supposedly
Xbox
this is the one that we've
send
had the
it in
most luck on, but
week
there
months?
are
I think
multiple
you mean to
points
say
that you
weekend
can
modder,
go
but,
off of, so
that's the question somebody had asked. So most consoles get modded within a day or two of showing up and then get shipped back out via priority mail. This particular console is actually just arrived today.
apply a little bit of solder.
Mr. Jonathan O. of Texas, whose console this is getting same-day service, and unfortunately, because tomorrow is Sunday, it won't go out the next day, but it'll go out the next possible day, which is on Monday here.
Solder in. this guy.
Oh, cool. Modchip had the actual thickness measurement. Yeah, you want relatively thin solder, I think, because a lot of these points are fairly close to each other. So the thin diameter solder is pretty slow. What do you say? No thermal paste? I put a whole reapplication of thermal paste down on the thing. What happened to that $17 soldering?
And now that we have the Modchip in, what we're going to do is actually try and boot up the console right now. As I've shown you, we've already flashed the ECC. So hypothetically, if this all went well, we should be able to load right up into Zell. So I have some wires ran out here already. What I'll do is just try and spin this guy around. Get ourselves an HDMI hooked up. Alright, so we've got our HDMI. We have our power. And you can see we do have a light on our chip. We're going to plug the heatsink back in real quick because we forgot that, and we don't want to. We want to keep this thing nice and cool. Alright, actually let me unhook the power real quick because really shouldn't be doing that kind of thing while it's plugged in. And I don't actually have any controllers anywhere near, so hopefully we can get this guy booted up with the ring of light. Wow, now that doesn't look like he plugs in too far. So we'll take him as far as he will. Get our power hooked up. And now hopefully we should be off to the races. Now that is also assuming that I know how to turn on an Xbox 360. Which this probably isn't going to work as expected right now. Bear with me for 1 second while I pause the video. And we're back, and what I believe my problem was I did not have the ring of light plugged in all the way. So we're going to go ahead and try this guy again. With, once again, no luck. So what I believe is the problem is that I just don't know how to turn on an Xbox. Hopefully that's the problem anyways, because I like to assume that this is all hooked up very properly. And that is our LED, so that is not going to be pushable. What I think I'm going to need to do is actually figure out how this guy does turn on. So give me yet another moment, and I'm going to look at the case. And what I believe this is as well is that this is the touch button. So there is no physical button for this, and what we need to do is actually attach our faceplate and back to the console. Now, the way that this came out was kind of a pain, so let's take this guy back off real quick. have the faceplate reattached. I'm gonna plug this guy back in and plug our power wire back in. And if all goes well, we have an Xbox that turns on. We've got a green light on the Modchip. And if all goes well, this guy will be booting up to the next monitor, which we will take a look at real quick. And as you can see, we are now booting into Zell. And Perfect Zell has successfully read our CPU and DVD keys. He's read all the fuses that have been burnt out for updates, and it looks like this has been a success. Alright, so now that this is out of the way, let's find out what the next steps are.
Create XE build image after verifying we're on glitch 2 non-CR4. So we're going to create our XE build image. Right. Nobody delivers the same day unless you're Amazon and their weird pilot program.
Alright, so now what we need to do is probably turn this guy off real quick.
Alright, so we've got our CPU key here. We can see that it's displaying to us an IP address, which is how I'm going to enter it into my JRunner here. So I'm going to enter the
actually, I lied. So what we need to do
get CPU key
is actually
suck that in. We're going to say create XE build image after verifying we're on glitch 2.
Well, I was wrong. I had misspoken before. So what we were supposed to do is actually leave the JRunner attached for this install. So I'm going to unplug the power real quick and plug my JRunner back in, because we haven't actually disconnected him yet, which is good because we needed him. And plug this guy back into my USB. Alright, so we're now going to hook the power back up, and we're going to go and turn this thing on again. Alright, and now that this is in and turning on again, as you can see, it's booting back up into Zell.
How I'm going to enter it into my JRunner here.
So over here on JRunner,
.26,
we're going to enter our IP address for this guy, which is going to be showing up here on the screen in a second, but it looks like we've got 192.168.1.99. Oh, unless it's the 98 that we're going for. 26.
Well, that's going on. I'm going to click get.
Alright, and what we're going to do now is try and extract the CPU key with JRunner.
Program. Alright, so we've got our CPU key here. We can see that it's displaying to us an IP address, which is how I'm going to enter it into my JRunner here. So I'm going to enter the .26. I'm going to click get CPU key. It's going to suck that in. We're going to say create XE build image after verifying we're on glitch 2 non-CR4. So we're going to create our XE build image. While that's going on, I'm going to power off the console. Disconnect power, reconnect power, unplug the Ethernet because we don't want to mistakenly go online now.
What I'm thinking is that I shouldn't be connected.
And then reconnect our NAND X for our final NAND write. I'm going to go ahead and pull out
source to have quicker results. Okay.
While that's going on,
bear with me for one more second. Alright guys, I think I'm back, minus a few technical difficulties here. Which I'm not sure how I'm going to be able to do this. But, alright, we're back, and we have now finished writing the update to the Xbox. So what we're going to do is go ahead and power this thing on. I'm going to disconnect the Ethernet real quick so we don't connect to the internet. And we're going to power this guy on and make sure that he works as expected. And at the very least, we can see that the Xbox 360 is booting up. And here we go. And it looks like we've turned on successfully. If I didn't know any better, I would say that this console is modded.